7 signs you're one of the few born with both angel and demon energy. There's something inside you that doesn't make sense to most people. You felt it for as long as you can remember. A duality, a contradiction, a raw, untamed energy that can be terrifying in its depth, but also transcendent in its beauty. You've never fit into a single category. You've never been just light or just shadow. You've always been both. And maybe no one told you this before, but that's not a flaw. It's a gift. A spiritual blueprint very few carry. You were born with both angel and demon energy, and the reason your life has always felt like a battlefield is because this world doesn't yet know how to receive someone like you. We're taught to choose good or bad, light or dark, heaven or hell. But what if you were born as the bridge? What if your soul volunteered to carry both polarities, not to be torn between them, but to reconcile them? That's what it means to be born with both angel and demon energy. It means you came into this world with access to the highest frequencies of divine love and the deepest depths of primal chaos. And you weren't meant to suppress either. You were meant to master them, but no one told you that. So instead, you may have spent years in confusion, feeling too much, reacting too strongly, loving too deeply, pushing people away, drawing them in, breaking things down, and then rebuilding them from the ashes. All of it part of your sacred design.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The first sign that you carry this dual energy is that you are both a healer and a destroyer. Not by choice, but by nature. You walk into people's lives like a mirror they didn't ask for. Your presence reveals what's real and what's fake. And people either love you for it or resent you deeply, sometimes both at the same time. You have the energy to ignite transformation, not with gentle affirmations, but with truth so sharp it slices through illusion. You don't just comfort people, you challenge them. You call out their shadows, not because you want to harm them, but because you can't ignore the lie. And sometimes that makes you the villain in their story. But deep down, their soul recognizes you as the activator they secretly prayed for. The second sign is your emotional intensity. You don't feel things halfway. Everything is all in. When you love, it's devotional. When you're angry, it's volcanic. When you create, it's obsessive. Your emotions don't whisper, they roar. And that's because you're not just channeling human feelings. You're holding angelic empathy and demonic fire in one vessel. That amount of energy is not easy to carry. It shakes you. It demands outlets. But it forces you to choose whether to use it to build or destroy. And if you haven't learned to direct it consciously, it can make your life feel like a storm you're trapped inside. But once you recognize what you're actually holding, you stop fearing the storm and start becoming it. The third sign is that you are often misunderstood even by people who claim to be spiritual. They want you to be light all the time, peaceful, kind, predictable. But you're not here to be digestible. You're here to be disruptive. Your demon energy is not evil, it's raw power. It's the part of you that doesn't tolerate injustice, that doesn't stay quiet when truth is being buried, that breaks chains instead of politely negotiating with them. And your angel energy. It's not just soft and glowing. It's fierce. It's divine rage when innocence is harmed. It's sacred love that refuses to abandon the broken. You are not half light and half dark. You are fully both, and that makes you a threat to any system that thrives on division. The fourth sign is that you've been through more spiritual warfare than most. Not because you're cursed, but because you're chosen. Your soul signed up for a bigger contract. You didn't come here to meditate your way into bliss. You came to wrestle with shadows that have ruled over generations. You came to confront ancestral patterns, societal lies, collective traumas, and burn them down with your presence. Every breakdown you've endured, every dark night, every betrayal, every internal war, it wasn't punishment. It was initiation. The demon energy in you had to be tempered. The angel energy had to be grounded. And now, after everything, you're starting to realize nothing can break you anymore. Because you've already met every version of your own darkness, and you didn't run. So let me ask you, what part of your power have you been hiding in order to be accepted? What part of your fire have you tried to dim so you wouldn't scare people away? What if I told you that the very intensity you've been trying to manage is the medicine the world needs? You see, when you're born with both angel and demon energy, your life isn't about perfection. It's about integration. Your job isn't to kill your shadow, it's to befriend it, to understand that your darkness is not your enemy. It's your depth. It's your ability to meet people in their pain without flinching. It's your capacity to hold space for the ugly, the raw, the real, and still choose love. That's what makes you different. You don't just carry light. You carry the courage to walk into the darkest places and bring the light. That's why you've always felt like you don't belong, because you weren't made to blend in. You were made to break patterns. And now, more than ever, the world needs you to remember who you are. Not just the healer, not just the fire starter, but the fusion, the living paradox, the divine contradiction. The soul who chose to embody both heaven and hell, not to be torn apart by them, but to show the world what it means to transcend them. The sacred power of being uncontainable, why you were never meant to be tamed. There comes a point in your evolution when you stop apologizing for being too much, too intense, too emotional, too deep, too wild. You begin to realize that the very things people tried to suppress in you were not flaws, they were frequencies too rare for the average soul to interpret. You weren't meant to be understood by everyone. You were meant to awaken those who are ready. And that doesn't happen through comfort. It happens through impact, through energy so unfiltered, so alive, so sacredly untamed that it shakes people awake. That's your power. That's your legacy. And that's why you've never been able to be small for long. Because your soul isn't here to fit in. It's here to set fire to anything false. When you're born with both angel and demon energy, your essence is uncontainable by design. The world will try to mold you. Religion will try to box you. Culture will try to label you. People will try to define you based on the last version of you they could understand. But you're not static. You're not linear. You're an unfolding force, a walking contradiction, a soul that can speak in tongues of light and still roar with the chaos of ancient fire. You are not one thing. You are all things. And that terrifies those who only know how to relate to what they can control. You've probably noticed this, the way some people are drawn to you magnetically, obsessively, almost as if they're intoxicated by your presence. And then, just as quickly, they turn cold, confused, threatened. It's not personal, it's energetic. Your field is a frequency disruptor. It brings up what's been buried in others. It triggers their masks. It pokes holes in their illusions. Not because you're trying to, but because truth leaks from your pores. Your vibration is a living invitation to rise. And that kind of invitation can feel like an attack to those who aren't ready. But you weren't born to dilute yourself for their comfort. You were born to be a mirror, even when it hurts. And that's why your life has never followed a traditional path. Jobs, relationships, environments that felt normal to others felt suffocating to you. Not because you're broken, but because your soul is allergic to stagnation. You can't sit in shallow waters pretending it's the ocean. You can't pretend to care about things that don't light your spirit on fire. You've probably tried to play the game, to be agreeable, to tone it down. And every time you did, something inside you died a little. Because your energy was never meant to be domesticated. It was meant to be directed, channeled, embodied, but never caged. This is the sacred burden of carrying both angel and demon energy. You are constantly asked to hold opposing truths at once, and to be wildly passionate and fiercely peaceful, to be deeply compassionate and terrifyingly honest, to be soft and savage, to be love and fire. And the world doesn't know what to do with that. People want categories. They want you to pick a side. They want you to be either pure or powerful, but your soul laughs at those limitations, because your existence is the destruction of binaries. And your very being is proof that divinity doesn't fit inside human boxes. So let me ask you this. How many times have you shrunk your fire to be loved? How often have you clipped your own wings just to be invited into someone else's cage? And what would happen if, starting now, you stopped apologizing for your intensity and started owning it? Because here's the truth, your uncontainable nature is not a liability. It's your weapon, your protection, your compass. It's what keeps you aligned with your soul. And once you stop resisting it, once you stop trying to make yourself palatable to a world addicted to mediocrity, you'll discover something absolutely sacred. You are already enough, exactly as you are. Not when you're more peaceful, not when you're more polished, not when you've fixed your fire, but now, raw, real, radiant, fully angel, fully demon, fully you. People will misunderstand. Let them. People will project. Let them. You weren't born to appease. You were born to awaken. And sometimes awakening looks like destruction. Sometimes it looks like walking away from everything you once begged to be part of. Sometimes it looks like standing alone in your truth while the world calls you crazy, dangerous, unpredictable. But let them talk, because you don't need their approval. You are not here to be liked. You are here to remember, to embody, and to lead. So rise in your chaos, rise in your clarity, rise in the holy contradiction that lives inside your bones. And never again apologize for being the storm and the stillness. That's not a mistake. That's your mission. The fire that heals and destroys, how to master your dual power before it masters you. The moment you realize you carry both angel and demon energy, the next realization comes hard and fast. If you don't master your fire, it will master you. This dual power inside you is not passive. It's not something you can ignore, suppress, or compartmentalize. It's alive, it's wild, and it's always moving, shifting, testing you. If you try to silence it, it erupts. If you try to control it with ego, it backfires. But if you honor it, if you learn to listen to it, if you treat it like the sacred elemental force it is, you will begin to see what few ever do, and that your greatest gift is not your light or your shadow, but your ability to hold both without being consumed by either. This fire doesn't ask for your obedience. It demands your devotion. Not in the way religion has taught us to bow down in fear, but in the way you bow to your own soul, because you know it's ancient, powerful, and not here to play small. Your fire is the essence of your mission. It's the part of you that feels everything deeply, that reacts when truth is violated, that knows when something is off before anyone else notices. But here's the dangerous part. If you don't understand this fire, if you let it run on autopilot, it will destroy not just illusions but relationships, opportunities, but even your own body. Look at your past. Look at the times you've exploded, shut down, lashed out, or burned bridges you later wished you didn't. That wasn't because you're broken. That was the fire trying to speak, trying to say, this is not your path, or this is dishonoring your truth, or even this is draining your divinity. But because you didn't yet have the tools to interpret its language, it came out in chaos, in self-sabotage, in emotional destruction. And that's why mastering this dual power isn't optional. It's urgent. So how do you do it? First, you must stop seeing your demon energy as something evil. But that's the first lie the world taught you. Demon energy, in its pure form, is not malicious, it's raw will. It's clarity. It's the primal force that says, no more. It's the part of you that refuses to be enslaved, that tears down false gods, that walks away from anything that poisons your spirit. Without that energy, you'd be stuck in cycles of people-pleasing and spiritual bypassing. But when you integrate it, when you learn to direct it, it becomes your sword. Angel energy, on the other hand, isn't just peace and love and light. That's another half-truth. Real angel energy is fierce. It's the courage to forgive what others would crucify. It's the strength to show compassion in the face of betrayal. It's the grace to keep your heart open when everything tells you to shut it down. Angel energy is the healer, the sacred witness, the divine mother, the luminous protector. But without your demon energy beside it, it becomes passive. It gets walked on. It becomes too soft to change anything. That's why you need both. You need the fire that destroys illusions and the love that rebuilds truth. You need the rage that says never again and the heart that says, I still believe in beauty. You are here to be the alchemy, the bridge. The one who doesn't just talk about balance but becomes the balance. And that requires discipline, self-awareness, and radical honesty. Ask yourself, how do I respond when I'm triggered? Do I let the demon energy take over without reflection? Do I dissociate into angelic numbness and pretend everything's okay? Or do I breathe, pause, and ask myself what this fire is trying to tell me? Because in that pause lies your power. That's where mastery lives, not in suppression, not in explosion, but in integration. You'll know you're mastering your dual power when you stop reacting and start responding, when your fire becomes focused, when your love becomes intelligent, when your presence doesn't just shake people, it elevates them. You become the person who can walk into a room of chaos and bring clarity, who can look someone in the eye, call out their shadow, and still hold them in love, who can say no with sacred conviction and yes with divine softness. That's not just spiritual maturity, That's embodiment. And when you live like that, something shifts in your reality. But you stop attracting drama. Not because the world changes, but because you do. Your field becomes a filter. Only those who are ready to rise can stay in your orbit. Anything else burns away. Not because you're rejecting it, but because your energy is no longer compatible with confusion. You've become clear, and clarity is the ultimate protection. So I'll leave you with this. What would your life look like if you stopped fighting your fire and started honoring it? What would change if you saw your duality not as a burden, but as a divine technology? Because the moment you stop fearing your power is the moment the world starts feeling your purpose. You are the end of the old world, why you were born to break the spiritual mold. There's a truth you've always felt, but maybe never had the language to express. You don't belong to the old world. You never did. You don't fit into its neat spiritual categories, its rules, its hierarchies, or its definitions of good and evil. That's because you weren't born to fit into the spiritual systems that exist. You were born to end them, or more precisely, to evolve them, to tear down the outdated temples built on fear and control, and to build something raw, real, and alive in their place. That's why you feel what you feel. That's why you've never been able to blindly follow spiritual dogma, even when it was wrapped in light. That's why you've always sensed that your path wasn't about purity, but about power. Not the kind that dominates, but the kind that liberates. You're not here to be a disciple. You're here to be a disruptor, a breaker of chains. A sacred rebel who knows that God doesn't live in the sky, or in a book, or in some far-off afterlife, but in your body, in your pain, in your rage, in your stillness. You are the living, breathing edge between what has been and what must be. You carry the codes of the future. And those codes are not gentle. They are not always beautiful. They are not easy to carry. Sometimes they make you feel insane, isolated, misunderstood. But that's the price of being a forerunner, of being one of the few born with both angel and demon energy. You didn't come to repeat what's been done. You came to rewrite the whole script. That's why your journey has been so intense, so relentless, why you've had to lose everything, why you've had to question everything. Because you can't build the new while clinging to the old. And your soul knew that. It knew what it signed up for. It chose a life that would break you open, so nothing false could survive. It chose love that would shatter you, loss that would humble you, pain that would awaken you. Not to punish you, but to forge you, to prepare you. Because someone has to remember the truth when the world forgets. Someone has to hold the frequency when everything else collapses. But that someone is you. And no, you don't have to save the world. That's not your job. But you do have to be who you came here to be. Fully, unapologetically, unfiltered. You have to stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting to be more healed, more perfect, more ready. You're already enough. You're already coded with what this world needs. Not in some abstract way, but in your energy, your words, your presence. You are the transmission. You are the disruption. You are the future. But here's the thing, the more you step into this energy, the more lonely it might feel at times. Because there aren't many of us. Not yet. The ones who carry both heaven and hell in their chest. The ones who walk like storms but love like gods. The ones who can sit with demons and still radiate grace. We are rare, but we're finding each other. slowly, quietly, powerfully. And when we do, the old world trembles, because it knows what's coming. It knows that once enough of us remember, the illusion can no longer hold. So I ask you, with everything in your being, are you ready to stop pretending you're normal? To stop hiding your fire behind spiritual niceties? To stop dimming your light just to make others comfortable? Because the time for playing small is over. The time for spiritual compliance is over. The future doesn't need more followers. It needs leaders not in title, but in truth. It needs those who've lived through the fire and stayed soft. Those who've met their demons and didn't flinch. Those who can love without losing themselves. That's you. You are not becoming something new. You are remembering who you've always been. A bridge, a blade, a blessing, a reckoning. A soul forged in both light and shadow, here not to be tamed but to transform. You were never meant to be a student of the old world. You were meant to be its end, and from your fire something holy will rise. Let it.